welcome yogis. I'm Avani of the Caribe Yoga Academy, and we have Alex here today, a Caribe Yoga Academy graduate, to help demonstrate the postures for the Caribe Yoga Academy Flow. As we've done with the other standing sequence tutorials, we'll do a breakdown of each of the postures to begin with, to give you some tips for alignment cues, what we're looking to engage, where we're creating length. And then the second round, we'll do a full cycled sequence to hear the active voice and body possession cues, which may be helpful for you in your teaching yoga practice. So what I'm going to do is ask Alex to come to the top of her mat and first move through a half sun salutation. If these first postures are a little less familiar to you, I recommend flipping back and going to either the Surya A, Surya B, or Dancing Warrior tutorial and breakdown in order to become more familiar with these first poses. So it's a half sun salutation in order to get back to downward facing dog. So Alex is going to move through, lifting her arms high, exhaling to fold forward. She'll lift halfway, Urdhva Uttanasana, exhale and step back. All in one breath, lower halfway down, Chaturanga. And we'll start our breakdown from downward facing dog for the CYA Flow. So she can inhale and reach her right leg high. And then on the exhale, step your right foot all the way up through. I love this sequence because it gets our last two warrior forms that we haven't yet seen into the mix for your standing sequences. So on this first one, she'll leave her back heel raised for Ashtachandrasana or crescent warrior. And then the underside of her back knee, in this case the left knee, is going to be very, very active, lifting upward toward the sky. And then she'll reach all 10 fingertips high. So crescent warrior, Ashtachandrasana, front knee slides over the front ankle. Underside of the back knee is really active, reaching upward. And then all the same warrior components. Her ribs drop back or roll back so they're above the pelvis, so that her fire, the Manipura, the Agni, is really turned on. She's active with her arms and fingers, however, without allowing the shoulders to activate upward toward the ears. So there's a little bit of a draw down the back of the shoulders. You might encourage your students, depending on what you're working on toward a peak pose, to either press inward toward midline or even find an active press outward, like as if into a door frame. So that's a little isometric contraction to turn on the whole shoulder girdle and full length of the arm. So then, everyone's favorite, we're going to add in 3 rounds of what I call psoas drops. So Alex will keep the back knee nice and long and active and drop the pelvis a little bit lower so that she starts to really feel into the psoas, hence psoas drops, of the left leg, of the back leg, and the low abdomen. And then she'll drop a little bit lower while keeping that back knee strong. Yes, she's working really hard. And then a little bit lower. I like to offer 3. You could do 1 to 5 in your practice. And then she'll lift all the way back toward neutral, something feeling more neutral, and then draw her hands down toward her hips. So there's a tough transition here. Just keep in mind it may be useful for lots of students to have 2 blocks toward the top edge of the mat. So I'm going to set those here for Alex. You can always prep your students into that before moving to this sequence. So then she'll bend into her back knee, a little bit of activation, to hop her back toes up and off the earth. And then as she does that, start to hinge her heart forward. She's looking for alignment between heart, hips, and heel for Veerababu 3. So this is the 4th warrior shape we're seeing through all of the standing poses, standing sequences rather. She can hold here or bring her hands down to those immediately placed props, the blocks. Her toes are drawn toward the shins, nice and active. She wants to look for alignment between her left hip and the standing right hip, that's her base leg. Gaze can be toward the earth so that her neck spine is nice and long. From here, she transitions directly toward a standing split. So she's going to stay strong in her base leg and start to bend her elbows, maybe walk her hands to the earth, maybe even onto her base leg, while the left toes start to lift a little bit higher. And then if the student feels comfortable, they can really offer the crown of their head right down to the earth and maybe even open their eyes, open their gaze toward the back edge of their mat. So this is a deep inversion. And then she'll bend deep into her base leg, slowly step back until she lands onto her left tippy toes, Now we're switching the foundation to get warrior one in. So she spins the back heel down. Remember, there's a little bit of space from heel to heel for Vera one. And then she inhales all the way up to standing. Vera one, different foundation. The heel is down this time. Slide the ribs above the pelvis, a little tuck in of the navel. Right to Baddha Veerabhadrasana, a bound warrior or humble warrior. So in order to get there, Alex is going to interlace her fingers behind her back. Some folks like to add a little bit of a heart lift first, so maybe you invite your students to press their knuckles down toward the earth. And then as she exhales, she'll swivel just slightly so that her heart can come to the inside of her front knee. That little swivel is important so that the student is not resting their trunk right atop the thigh. So she's actually dropping to the inside of her front knee. If there's really deep compression into the front right hip, the student can take their foundation a little bit wider. The heels of the hands are invited to be as close as possible to one another. They may even touch, but not required. The head can hang down heavy, and there's an active press into the pinky toe edge of the left foot at the back. She's going to get her belly really nice and fiery to lift all the way back up to standing. Release her fingertips behind her and reach back up to Vera one. Nice. And then exhale all the way back down to frame her front foot. And I'll have her step directly back to downward facing dog. So of course you have the option as you're teaching a yoga class. You may work in a vinyasa, a chaturanga, an up dog, particularly depending on what you're working toward as far as the peak pose goes, if those postures are supportive of the practice that you have planned. Okay, so let's move through that on the other side. Inhale your left leg nice and high. Bring your gaze forward, step your left foot all the way up and through. First round of the sequence, the heel stays raised at the back. The underside of the knee stays raised and really active, and then she'll lift her arms nice and high. In Ashta Chandrasana, so there's an active pull of the back hip forward, and then a press of the front hip back, and the ribs are right above the pelvis with active arms. Psoas drops. She'll keep the back knee active and drop the hips, the pelvis a little lower. A little lower. Nice. Activate under the knee, and then a little bit lower. So this is good for really deep hip opening. And then she'll lift all the way back towards something more neutral. Nice. You can keep the hands together, folded toward the heart now, or for some folks it might be steadier with hands at the hips. Bend deep into the right knee at the back for a little momentum, and then float the right toes. And then once your student is steady on their baseline, they can start to lean their heart forward, looking for that heart, hips, heel alignment of Vera 3. Remember, they can keep hands at the heart or land them down onto blocks here. You're creating the same shape in the body either way. So toes down, right toes down to the earth, looking for alignment of the right hip into alignment with the left. Nice and long in the trunk, the belly draws in, and the crown of the head reaches forward. And then on their exhale, they can drop down, maybe hands to the earth or even onto their left base leg. And as they do that, they might find that their right toes reach a little higher toward a standing split. If they feel steady, the crown of their head can drop down. Really nice deep inversion. And then she'll bend into her base leg and slowly come on back. Land the tips of the toes down gracefully. Second round as you come to standing, a different foundation. She's pressed into the pinky toe blade here and then lifted up. So it's Vera 1 or Warrior 1 on the second round. Slide the front knee above the ankle and then interlace the fingers behind. It's nice to swap sides if you can remember to cue that. So opposite pinky the weird way, right? For the second round, maybe lift the heart. And then on the exhale, she's going to take that little bit of a swivel to come down to the inside of her front knee. Baddha Veerababu, a bound warrior or a humble warrior. So remember, a little protection for the rotator cuff when you're interlacing or in Yoga Mudra behind the back. Useful to draw the heels of the hands toward one another. That doesn't mean that they need to touch. It's only a directional aspiration that you can come toward. Okay, so she's pressing into the pinky toe edge of the back. She's going to get her belly fiery and lift all the way back up to standing. Release her fingertips and reach high. Good, and then exhale down through the heart, frame her front foot, and she steps right back. Remember, you have the option to add in vinyasa here or come right back to downward facing dog. So again, I'm going to ask Alex to move through a half Sun Salutation to wrap up that standing sequence. We'll meet back together in standing so I can guide you through this second round with active voice cues and body possession for those yoga teachers out there. So she's going to come right back to Samasthiti. Here we go. Caribe Yoga Academy, CYA Flow. Inhale, reach your arms out wide and high. Bring your gaze up to your fingertips. And then on your exhale, hinge forward and come all the way down, touch blocks or the earth, Uttanasana. Lift up halfway on the in-breath to fingertips or your shins. Get your navel drawn back and pelvic floor lifted. Exhale in one breath, ground your palms, step all the way back. Bend your elbows just to your ribs with a little slight slide forward. Lift your heart, Veerababu, come to the tops of your feet. And then roll up and over your toes, reach your hips high and back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale your right leg high, and then exhale, bring your gaze forward, step, one big step or a couple baby steps all the way forward. Keep your left heel lifted and lift the underside of your left knee. Reach all 10 fingertips high, Ashtachandrasana, crescent warrior. Maintain there, soften your shoulders, then drop your pelvis a little lower without bending your back knee. A little bit lower, and a little bit lower. And then inhale, slide up toward neutral. Breathe your hands down through your heart and onto your hips. You can take a bend into your back knee, a little bit of momentum, and then float your toes. As you're steady with your right thigh as a base, start to lean your heart forward. I got in your way there, sorry. Lean your heart forward. And then you have the option here to fold your hands together at your heart or land your hands onto blocks. Veerababu 3, take a breath, point toes down to the earth, left toes down to the earth. And then exhale, dive a little deeper toward an inversion, hands to the earth or both hands onto your right base leg. Activate the quadricep of your right leg, top of your thigh, standing split. And then bend deep into your base leg, mindfully land back to the tippy toes of your left foot, so you're back in stand runner's lunge. Spin your heel down, reach all the way up high, warrior one. So back heel is now landed. Sink deep into your front knee. Interlace your fingers behind you. And then on your exhale, a little bit of a swivel, drop down to the inside of your right knee for a breath. Adho Veerababu. Exhale all the way down. Make sure the front knee doesn't come toward the midline. It's a little active press to the outer edge of your mat. Nice. Then fire up the navel, lift all the way back up. Release your hands from behind you, reach high. On your exhale, come right down through your heart. Plant both hands to either side of your right foot and then step it back. Lift your hips up nice and high, right to downward facing dog, or of course vinyasa here, yogis. Reach the other side. Inhale your left leg high, active toes. Bring your gaze forward. Step your left foot all the way up through. Keep your right heel lifted. Keep the underside of your right knee super active and rise. Make sure the left knee is stacked above your left ankle. Scoop your ribs in. Start to drop your pelvis down. 1, a little bit further. 2, keep the underside of the knee active, and a little bit deeper. 3, nice. And then all the way back toward neutral. Breathe your hands down through your heart. Remember, they can rest here or for a little more steadiness to the hips. Bend into your back knee for momentum to float your toes. And then as you feel steady, lean your heart forward. Here's where yogis can either fold hands together at the heart or bring hands down to blocks. Veerababu 3. Draw the right toes down. Look for evenness, right hip to left hip. Nice. And long trunk. Yes. And then exhale, dive a little deeper. Right toward inversion, hands down to the earth, or you can reach both hands toward your base leg, your left leg. Activate the left side quadricep. Drop the crown of your head to the earth. Then bend gently into your left knee. Slight bend and step all the way back. Spin your back heel down. So we're in Vera 1 foundation now with wide heels. Inhale to reach 10 fingertips high. Lift your heart. Interlace your fingers behind you. Baddha Veerabadasana, if you can remember, interlace to the opposite side, and then take a little swivel with your heart. Come down to the inside of your left knee. Baddha Veerababu. And then you're going to notice if the left knee is having a tendency to cave toward midline. Give it a little activation to the inner seam of your thigh and draw it out to outer edge of your mat. Press into your right pinky blade, outer blade. Draw navel back and lift all the way up towards center. Release your fingertips, reach all 10 high. And then breathe both hands down onto the earth. Step your left foot back, reach your hips high. Take a breath. And then bring your gaze forward to your fingertips. Walk, lunge, or hop all the way up to the top edge of your mat. When you arrive, lift up halfway. Find fingertips or slide your hands to your shins. Use your exhale to deepen your forward fold. A little compression for the organs. Draw your tummy back. Keep that active, and then bring your arms out wide and come all the way to standing. Draw your palms together to heart center. Samastitihi. We finish here. Thank you, yogis. Thank you, Alex. Hope you enjoyed today's tutorial of the CYA Flow. Please leave any questions or comments in the comments below, and have a wonderful day ahead. Namaste. Jai Baba.